Welcome to Enrich's Papers. Today we're going to showcase my Stormcast Eternal Farstriders. Ah yes, the Farstriders. Another one of my projects that I started up when my computer died on me. I had an Apple laptop and it no longer worked, so I was out of a computer with plenty of hobby stuff to do. So what I did was I offered a free class on how to paint each one of these guys up and my local hobby store. And they came out really, really well. I enjoyed the way they come out. They fit really well in my Stormcast Eternal army, and I couldn't be happier about that. Now, for those that don't know, you can use these guys in Warhammer Underworlds. Right now, they're on Beastgrave, but I picked them up a long, long time ago, even in the Shadespire days. So I had these for a while, but I never painted them up, and I finally got around to actually doing it. You can also play these in Age of Sigmar, so they fit really well into my Age of Sigmar Stormcast Eternals army, so that fits up as well. These guys were really fun to paint up, and it was really cool to share the experience with other hobbyists while I was painting these guys up. Well, enough of me blabbering. Let's get on to the showcase. Hello, and thank you for joining me in this showcase of the Farstriders. Now, this is one of those warbands that are a little bit more interesting, I think, than any other regular warband, only because you can play them in two separate games. That is Warhammer Underworlds as well as Age of Sigmar, which really adds to a unique vibe to the entire thing. We're going to get into a little bit of lore in this. We're also going to talk a little bit about the strategies for both the games that you can play these in, and my favorite things about each one. But we're going to start off with the actual project itself and painting the project. This was a great project. I really love this project because I got to share it with other people when I did it, and I actually taught other people how to paint up the Farstriders and using all the colors that I did, and it was really awesome. It was an awesome experience to be able to do that and to share all of the cool things about painting and my joy and love of painting with other people. It was a free class in my local hobby store, and it painted up really well. We did it in 3 different sessions, one for each miniature, and I took it through the process, the entire process of building, as well as priming, as well as painting all the miniatures, and they came out really, really well, in my opinion. Especially being away from my studio, which is a little odd for me because I'm used to painting inside my studios. I have the huge studio lights on there. This was a little bit different. I used an art light where I was able to see most of the miniature, I would think. And I got all the edges in. We did the edge highlighting. I went through the process of me putting it together step by step, so this way anybody could follow. So what happened was that people bought a warband, and then they put it together with me, and then we painted it together step by step. So it was really, really cool, and it was fun to paint up. I'm really happy I get to add it to my Stormcast Eternals army. I think it was just great. One of the key factors that didn't come with these Farstriders in the pack were the emblems that I had to put on the shoulder pads. Now, those emblems are included in your AOS box set, and I also bought some more off Amazon. I think I bought a 10-pack just in case. You never know when you can have enough decals or decals. You can't never have enough of that, right? Alrighty. So yeah, I loved painting them up. Let's talk a little bit about the lore, actually. Okay, so the Farstriders, they're members of what's called the Vanguard Hunters. Now, the Vanguard Hunters are rangers, basically, which play the role of an elite infantry of the Vanguard Auxiliary Chamber, a larger chamber. The Vanguard Auxiliary Chamber is one of 9 chambers in the Great Sigmar's host, and I took that from the page 39 from the battle tome for the Stormcast Eternals as I was looking through it. The Vanguard Hunters rely on raids and like guerrilla-style warfare. They're to locate and exploit the weakness of, Sigmar's foes. So they're like quick strike, hit it hard, and then gone, I guess. All right, they are nomadic. And they roam the hinterlands, and they live off the land itself. They're rarely ever home or stationary in one place. The leader of the Farstriders here is called Sanson Farstrider. He is one of the most experienced and respected hunter primes in the Hammers of Sigmar. It is said that Sanson once navigated his way out of the crystal labyrinth of Tzeentch. This is the heart of Tzeentch's domain, so you can imagine, if you know Tzeentch, everything's about trickery, nothing is straightforward, and he navigated himself out of that. This being the main reason, in my opinion, that the Farstriders, especially with Sanson at the helm, were chosen to enter the Shattered City of Shadespire since it was cursed and people said people can't get out of it. Now, if this guy can navigate through Tzeentch's domain, the heart of Tzeentch's domain, then honestly, it's very unlikely that they wouldn't be able to get out of Shadespire. So of course send them in. They were confident they could navigate their way out, is why I guess they even took the job to begin with. The next member is Almeric Eagle-Eye. Now, he has a bit of a spider sense. Like he knows when danger is about to come for him. And, he warns everybody. He's like, well, I sense danger, and everybody gets out of the way. And you can imagine how valuable that ability has been proven. And his proof is worth. Eagle-Eye has proven his worth time and time again in these warbands because, to avert danger like that is definitely something you want to have on your side. Next up is Elias Swiftblade to conclude the entire army of all three in this warband. Now, he was a wandering duelist in his mortal life, and he's an exceedingly talented swordsman. So here's your muscle, right? You have one that has a sixth sense, another one who is an expert hunter and navigator, and then here goes your muscle. It's going to whack you a couple of times, especially in close combat. So that's definitely like the triple threat when it comes to that. Alright, there's not a lot of lore on these guys, so, I'll try to keep it to the point where, there's not too much to say about when it comes to their background. So let's move on to using them in Age of Sigmar. Alright, so, in Age of Sigmar, the three weapons they have, the missile weapon is the Bolt Storm Pistol. It has a range of 9 inches, an attack of 2. To hit is a 3-up. To wound is a 4-up. There is no rend. The damage is 1. The other melee weapons included in this warband is a shock HANDAXE, which has a range of 1, has 2 attacks, a 4-up to hit, a 3-up to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. Finally, the Storm Saber, which is 1-inch weapon. It's 2 attacks, a 3-up to hit, 4-up to wound, no rend, and 1 damage as well. All the weapons have 2 attacks, by the way, so that makes them a little more, smashy, in my opinion. Alright, so the Farstriders is a unit that has 3 models. Sanson Farstrider is armed with a Storm Bolt pistol and a shock HANDAXE. He carries an astral compass and is accompanied by Star Falcon. So he has that falcon on his... and that was interesting to paint up. It was a lot of fun, actually. Almeric Eagle-Eye is armed with a Bolt Storm pistol and a shock HANDAXE. Elias Swiftblade is armed with a Storm Bolt pistol and a Storm Saber. Sanson Farstrider is the leader of this unit, and you're going to add 1 to his attack characteristic of his shock HANDAXE. Some of the abilities can include the Astral Compass. So if you set up the unit that includes any models with an astral compass in the celestial realm using the Scions of Storm battle trait. When you set it up on the battlefield for the first time, instead of setting it up more than 9 inches from your enemy, you can set it up wholly within 6 inches of any edge of the battlefield, more than 7 inches from an enemy. So you're getting up close and personal. Farstriders, the Star Falcon, at the start of your shooting phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 18 inches of Sanson Farstrider and roll a dice. On a 4-up, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So you're just laying out some mortal wounds with this guy because of that Falcon. And finally, you have Tireless Hunter. The unit can run and still shoot in the same turn. It gives you an advantage with those Bolt Storm pistols. So that's it for AOS as far as their profile for AOS is concerned. Let's talk a little bit about Warhammer Underworlds. Again, another reason why I really love this Warband is because you can play it in 2 games. So, Sanson Farstrider, he has a 4 movement, and his Stormbolt pistol has a range of 3, hitting on 3 swords, and the damage is 1. Now, his Shock Axe has a range of 1, hitting on 2 hammers, but it also occurs with 2 damage. He has a shield of 1, and he has 4 hit points. Now, if he becomes inspired, that changes the profile just a bit. So what happens is, under certain conditions, these units actually become inspired. So the condition for the Farstriders is that the fighter ends an action phase in an enemy's territory. So as long as he's in, or any one of these guys are in an enemy territory, they're going to go Super Saiyan on you. In other words, they're going to get inspired. You flip your card around, and you get different profiles. So for the Stormbolt pistol, again, range of 3, it has hitting on 3 swords and a damage 1, so nothing changes with that. Nothing changes with the hand shock axe either, being hitting on 2 hammers with the damage of 2 with a range of 1. But the only thing that is added is that now the Star Falcon is activated. The Star Falcon has a range of 4, hitting on 3 swords and hitting 1 damage. So that's really cool. Star Falcon, on a critical hit, attack action has a +1 to his damage range. Alright, so you get another shield. You have that movement of 4 changes, it doesn't change, neither does the hit points itself, or life, that you have when it becomes inspired. Let's speak about Almeric Eagle Eye now. Almeric Eagle Eye has a Bolt Storm pistol with a range of 3. It's hitting on 3 swords with 1 damage. The Shock HANDAXE has a range of 1, hitting on 2 hammers with 2 damage itself. He has a range of 3, a movement of 3, he has 1 shield, and he has 4 hit points. If he becomes inspired, the changes include, with his charged HANDAXE, he actually does 3 damage now instead of 2 damage. And that seems to be the only change that occurs with Eagle Eye Inspired. Aside from him getting from 1 shield to 2 shields as well. Alright, so next up we have Elias Swiftblade. He has the Bolt Storm pistol, which has a range of 3, hitting on 3 swords, and it does 1 damage. You have movement 1 with the Storm Saber. It's a range of 1, and it's doing damage on 3 swords, and it has 2 damage. Elias Swiftblade himself has a movement of 3, 1 shield, and 4 hit points. Again, but if he's in an enemy's territory, he becomes inspired. And in being inspired, the changes include he will have 2 on his shields, And I think that's about it. That's the only thing that happens when he becomes inspired. I have to say, for most of these, for the last two, when they become inspired, there's not much happens to that for Eagle Eye as well as Swiftblade. Elias Swiftblade and Merrick Eagle Eye, not much of a difference there, except for the shields, which all become 2. So, you know, he has 2 defense die that he can roll whenever somebody, you know, attacks them instead of just 1, which is cool. The major one here is Sanson Farstrider, which he gains actual attack with the Star Falcon. So that's really cool when it comes to that. So let me tell you a little bit about some of the upgrade cards that I love the most when I play. The upgrade cards that are, you know, faction specific. I do like the flashing HANDAXE upgrade, one that I use. It's a range 1 hitting on hammers, and I'm doing 3 action, but here 3 damage. But here's the kicker with this, that this weapon has cleave, so I love to attach that on. Another one is another upgrade card that I really use well when it comes to this faction, and I love using it. It's the well-timed lunge, and that is range of 1. It's hitting on 2 hammers and it has 3 damage. Also has cleave, so it cleaves through those defensive when people pull on defense. Cleave right through that. It's like a power hungry when it comes to those upgrades. And the last one here, I'm gonna do my top 3 right here, is Swift Stride. And I really like that because it adds 2 to your movement. And when it comes to this warband, positioning is just about everything. You want to get the position just right when to release volleys and to actually achieve any of your objectives for your objective cards. So that's really, really important. Now for the gambits, because now we call them gambits. For the gambits, my top three favorite here. Let's start, and no water in particular either. Raptor Strike, I really like that one. Choose an enemy fighter within 4 hexes of your leader, and they take 1 damage. That's it, just whack. Just instant damage. I love instant damage. Love, 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 love instant damage. Especially if you have one of those elusive enemies that only have just like 1 life left and you can't really get to them. Blam, this one just gets to them. Love it. Alright, so let's talk about the next gambit that I really, really like is Lightning Stride. Double the move characteristic of the first friendly fighter to make a move action in the next activation. They may not take a charge action. Once they have moved, they cannot be activated again in this phase. Now this is great, especially if you want to secure an objective or something like that and you really need to move somewhere. You can double your move characteristics out of nowhere. You're like, wow, you're right there. Now what are you going to do? Now you are some kind of beacon of hope. Also helps in when, especially if you need somebody to go right next to somebody else and adjacent to them, so this way you can assist them when you're attacking. Love that. Love that one. Finally, the last gambit that I really like is Rangers Advance. Choose 2 friendly fighters and push them 1 hex. Again, making that movement a priority and putting your ploys, putting your people strategically into the right places definitely helps your warband succeed. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about objective cards. 3 objective cards that I score very easily. I tend to score these. The first is Behead the Beast. Score this at the end of the phase if your warband took an enemy leader out of action in the preceding action phase. So all you have to do is, I mean, you're a hunter, just snipe that leader. That one I usually get because I'm usually in the enemy's territory trying to become inspired and then, you know, just in people's faces. The next one is Brave but Cautious. Score this at the end of the phase if you have at least 1 surviving fighter and none of your fighters suffered any damage the preceding action phase. Alright, so this one is more like an escape retreat. So if I'm getting damaged or hurt and stuff like that, you can get this one on the back end. It's sort of like a security card. In other words, if you can't score anything else and you're on the back end and they're whipping your butt, you can get one last objective in, and then you can score 1 point for that. Finally, Lightning Advance. In this, Score this at the end of the phase if all of your surviving fighters, at least 2, are in enemy territory, which is really, really good because especially if you're rushing to get into enemy territory, you can score lightning advance really quick early on in the game. Great card to have in your deck. I'm sure there are other cards that you can play. I'm not going to talk about. There was one, I think it's Concussion or something like that. There was one that, you know, pushed everybody on the field one direction, and it was deemed as OP to play in tournaments, so they don't really include it, but that's not really faction specific. Like, anybody can use that card. So I still use it in my friendly games. I don't care. I'm not that uptight, right? But, you know, you're not supposed to be using it in your it was restricted when it comes to actual official tournaments, so there's that as well. But I only like to play friendly games personally. Alrighty, well, those are all the cards on how I would play this warband, the Farstriders, in Age of Sigmar, and as well as in Warhammer Underworlds. So these models are fun to have. They're press fits. It's a little different, a little tricky to paint, because sometimes you have to use a lot of putty in order to, you know, get the cape just right, and you know, you just do some masking. You know, silly putty really comes in handy when you're doing all that stuff right there. Well, I hope you like this showcase, and I'll catch you on the outro. Well, there it is. Ready for some battle reports for both Age of Sigmar and Warhammer Underworlds. These Farstriders are interesting to play game-wise, so it should really make for an interesting battle. Well, if you like this showcase, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on the Miniatures Paintbrush.